As I'm recording this video, I literally feel like I'm passing a gun over to a monkey. Without any intention to disrespect, even though some of you may be into that, I genuinely feel like these are the two best openings that you can use below 1000. Okay? Not only when it comes to how effective they are, but also they are very easy to learn. Only a few setups that you need to remember, and the move order is not really that important. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to my best beginner lesson to Jobava London and Karo Khan. Enjoy! Alright everybody, getting another white game. This time facing an opponent that is rated almost 1100, so let's see what he has in mind against our little Jobava London. So knight to c3, he plays e6, which is interesting. This is somewhat of a sideline, but it has some ideas. Like, the main drawback of this is that it's literally boxing the bishop inside the pawn chain. So that could potentially get him in trouble later on. But the advantage of this is that he's having bishop to f4 kind of on the next move, unless you want to play a3. I tried messing around with throwing in a3 in these type of positions, and the idea being on bishop d6 there is e4, but I think it's a bit too complicated and I wouldn't really recommend it. So sticking with bishop f4, we may very well transpose to the main lines after knight f6, but just know that he can play this, where yeah, it's kind of tricking us with a move order. We have to play e3, knight f6, and then there is this knight e2 idea. There is also bishop d3 as a move that was played by Jobava a few times, which I think it's actually quite interesting. But we're back into the mainstream variation, where you know that my favorite move is knight b5. And so far we saw bishop to d6. Now, are we going to see knight e6? Because the knight onto the edge is definitely known to be kind of like the better way of dealing with our early knight jump. I think you should be prepared equally well for both. And wow, we even see knight e6, which is pretty nice for the video, because we get to show how to play against both. And already, a lot of people tend to forget or perhaps confuse what is the best idea for white, because, well, it looks like you can play either knight f3 or e3, and this is going to be the same. No, actually, it's better to play e3. Just because in a lot of these variations, after c6 is going to get played, you go back, you already have the bishop threat, doubling up the pawns. So, to simplify your task, when you're playing the Jobava London, just try to remember that typically you want to be playing e3 before knight f3. And I think that should just make it easy to remember. Okay? Big positional threat, so he plays bishop to b4. We can take. Now he can take, or he can throw in intermezzo. I think if he really wants to, he should take on c3. Because if he just plays the natural move recapturing, white has option of playing knight e2 and you no longer get the double pawns as black. I'm not gonna go knight e2, even though that's playable. I want to show you what I believe to be even a more cunning idea, even trickier, which is knight f3, okay? Because basically you don't need to worry about knight e4, okay? And he plays it immediately, and I know for a fact that this is one of the most annoying thing that Jobava London players are dealing with constantly. Well, what is important to remember and avoid is do not try to defend it like most people would do with queen d3. Because then black plays c5, you're careless, you castle, they play c4, you need to move the queen, then you lose control over c3, and probably with that the game. So, you want to really remember that, okay, here we have a very nice and powerful pawn sacrifice. And we can just get the heck out of here, castle, and no matter how he takes, white is going to be having very nice compensation. And okay, now, if I can recall my analysis, I believe the precise move is queen e1. And I'm going to explain. First of all, queen e2, you kind of get rid of this by elimination. He has knight e4 winning a tempo. Queen d3 also may be fine. I mean, queen d3, it's okay. It's perhaps the natural move. But I already know, yeah, queen d3 and you play for c4. I think that's okay. But I know my analysis, so I'm going to play queen e1. Now, he's going to go back. And then, well, first of all, before we actually continue, I want you to pause for a second and look at the position. and ask yourself, okay, we are down a pawn, but the extra pawn that the opponent has, it's this guy on a6. Are we really afraid of such pawn? I think the factor that the bishop is like completely restricted is more important. So our bishop is active, this guy is passive, and usually we continue the initiative with a move like knight e5. Okay? That is gonna probably provoke bishop to b7, defending the pawn. Since queen to c7 is gonna lose, you can try to pause the video and find why. The main idea is that on queen c7 you have discovery, targeting queen and rook. And on bishop to b7, I think we have many tempting moves. Probably rook b1 is the simplest. And rook b8 is already losing on the spot. And it's a very common way for people to lose in this rating range. So once again, feel free to pause the video and try to find the winning blow. A better move, I think, in fact, would be queen e7. Defending the bishop like that. Still, okay, even queen c8 is a bit better. The main trick is that rook b8, as you can see, stays on the same diagonal as the bishop. And this would have lost immediately due to knight c6. Bishop takes, and then rook takes on b8. Pinning the queen, winning the house. Now on queen to c8, I don't see an immediate win, at least not immediately. Wait, no, I should actually pay attention. The bishop feels too trapped. Like, look. This is like the worst bishop that I've seen in a while. It is actually really funny. The bishop can literally go nowhere. I mean, nowhere. You get a point. Wow. So this means we can play a move like queen to b4. His only idea is rook b8 to defend. But then there must be a way to take advantage of this. So either knight takes on c6 or knight takes on f7. Knight anywhere. Look at this. Queen b4. Wow. This is just a disaster. He had to play queen e7 indeed to stop this idea, but oh man, this is so deadly. I even feel a little bit dirty for using all this prep onto my poor opponent. But man, I mean, really, the only thing that you need to remember is the concept of sacrificing a pawn when they have these double pawns. That is very typical for the pawn structure in itself, and it is a very common position that you can reach. And okay, when knight takes on c3 happens, you know, maybe use a queen e1 move in a video. You can come up with it, and the rest is very simple. Knight e5, rook b1, all tempo moves, queen b4. Yeah. He cannot even castle, look. Like queen is taking away that square, meaning castling would be illegal. To me, it's still mind-blowing how many like 900 rated people don't realize the concept that, okay, you control a square from his king. The king cannot go through check while castling. So you really want to pay attention on simple ideas like that. And okay, we have simple move here. Queen b7, queen trade, fe, bishop e5. I think endgame is clearly winning. Now, should we play knight to d3? Saying, okay, the bishop is still not going anywhere. Like knight to d3 could be a nice, easy win. But then he has a move like e5. Trying to sort of complicate things, like maybe de. You know what? I'm actually just going to play knight f3. But this is just very simple. Knight f3, knight back. How is he going to defend? I don't get it. We don't even need to go for like any calculation. Just knight back. Come on, opponent. Make a move. Defend if you can. Man, when is the last time you guys have seen a bishop being trapped in jail by his own pieces? I just have no words to describe how rare and effective the position that we have is. You know, bishops are usually one of the most powerful pieces on the board. You know, not in a position like this. Just look. This is absolutely mind-blowing. And the only way that he can try to play now to survive, it's obviously the main issue for him is that rook b8 loses to bishop takes. And on e5, I can just take. And if he tries rook b8 now, I can take. Open up the bishop, he's still in trouble. He still has no way to escape. Yeah, just what can he do? Plays a5, saying, okay, take this pawn, maybe I can escape. But no, dude, I don't have to take your pawn, okay? I'm just gonna take your bishop. Thank you for the offer, but no. Thank you, but no thank you. I'm gonna take that. Trade queens. Okay, now, because we are having the extra piece, you really want to get into the mood of massive exchanges. Take on c8, play rook b7, infiltrate, rook on the 7th, very important. Look, he has a bit of an annoying knight. But at this point, we can just play around that. His knight is like well placed, but is it actually useful? You always want to ask yourself this question. Okay, my piece is well placed, but is it actually doing anything? Technically, the knight on e4 is on like the best square ever. It would have been better on d8 to defend his bishop, you know? Simple things like this can easily go unnoticed. And he plays a good move now, trying to open up rook's path. How do we punish? Maybe we don't punish? No, we should punish. So I could do rook here. Takes with the pawn. Yeah, I'm gonna use my rook. He's gonna take. I'm gonna like give him the pawn on c2, just because, well, we're having so much extra material that it is nice to give back a little bit. Oh, 92? GM secret? Watch out! He missed it? Knight move backwards. Just take that. That's really funny. He actually had a small chance to come into the game, but now we get to like really calm him down forever because there is this rook b8 move. Exchanging every single one of the remaining pieces. So, threatening to take, play rook b8. And he's just gonna be having the king alone. You know? Maybe sometimes that is not bad in itself, but it definitely is bad when the opponent has 2 extra pieces. Like in this case. I mean, we can argue a little bit on that. Maybe this was not the most precise way to play it, but I still have 2 extra pieces, so I wouldn't complain. Probably gonna take rook c8, maybe play c4. Takes then rook c1. Okay, he does that immediately. Take this. Rook c2, we can just move the knight. Not a biggie. Like knight b3. Just need to pay attention to the clock, and as long as we don't lose on time, this should be relatively winnable. Wait, a4? I think we have a good move. Do you know what the best move on a4 is? I think this is ridiculous, but it's really good. I think on a4 we had knight a1, good move. I'm gonna collect my free pawn. Then I'm gonna make a luft for the king. So we actually need to do 2 things. Make a luft and not lose on time. So no back rank and no flag. And we should be good. 94. At this point, you should already be careful not to get mated. But I will need to make a luft first. Maybe a move like g4. Like you could make a luft in the standard way with g3, but you will realize that when, you know, there is an endgame, it may be even better to make a more aggressive luft. Like g4 type of luft. So, you know, it may be not like game changer, but sometimes controlling more space really makes a difference. So, time to activate. Now we're chilling. I can move king up after the luft. Notice that these squares are taken. You can go maybe to g6, but notice because we have g4, this is controlling these squares, therefore leading to a forced checkmate. So we actually even get to prove the point, which is pretty funny. So with g3, he could have gone to h5 and it will take a little bit longer to mate. Now he's forced to go there, and then knight f5 is going to be a checkmate. So pretty nice that the opponent even walked into this little idea. Maybe you guys didn't believe me that the g4 luft was better. Well, now you know. Look at the pawn is controlling this square. Yeah, leading to a checkmate. So, okay. What is the decisive mistake of this game, you may be wondering? Probably bishop to b7. I think it's a mistake. I don't remember what he is supposed to play. yeah, he's supposed to just literally give up the pawn, and he's gonna be worse, but just kind of like hoping for some compensation. But trust me, everybody will defend. You play rook b1, and very important move, rook to b8. You really want to remember this tactic because it is genuinely winning the house. After rook b8, opponent's queen, and his dignity included. So, he played a better move, queen c8. But was it really a better move after queen to b4? Just look at the bishop. This is ridiculous. He moves this. You go like knight anywhere. Has to move the rook. Then you pick up the bishop. Easy win, okay? So he was supposed to play queen to e7, but even that, after like f3, the knight goes back. I know for a fact that the queen can even be utilized on the king side after something like this. You know, maybe even an idea like bishop g5. In the h6, you can play queen h4. I remember seeing something like this. And on castles, you can instantly get a winning game after the bishop sack, apparently. And then knight g4. This is a bit more complicated, but on king g7, you get to see that the queen is overloaded. Because you have rook b7, deflecting, and then you have a nice little mating construction. So, this is a little bit extra, but it just gets to show how deadly this pawn sacrifice really is. So, with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. Alright, everybody, picking it up exactly from where we left it, getting a black game, and we're gonna continue our rating climb. And what better way to get started in the 900 ELO range other than facing the mighty hillbilly attack, okay? Now, this is pretty funny for a lot of people because they are like really trying to search, you know, for like, ooh, what is the antidote to like the hillbilly attack? Give me the magic recipe to deal with this. Well, you don't really need a massive magic recipe or a massive recipe or whatever. You just need to understand some simple fundamental ideas, okay? What do I mean by that? So, in a nutshell, hillbilly attack, it is just a worse version of the exchange. As you already see, he decided to take on d5. I'm going to take back with a pawn. And if you already, you know, were a good boy, doing your homework, learning how to play against the exchange variation, then this should just be a walk in the park, okay? This is really nothing special. And for context, for those of you that are still not really getting what I'm trying to say, I'm referring to d4, and after d5, ed5 is the exchange variation. So, learn how to play that first, and then that's kind of gonna automatically kill the hillbilly attack. You're just hitting two birds with one stone, or maybe even multiple birds. So, please bishop to b3. Now, how do we play against the exchange? In general, knights on natural squares. And ideally, you want to get the bishop to g4. If not possible, then f5 is also, you know, kind of fine. Because, okay, queen to f3. This is already pretty interesting game because we can highlight a lot of, yeah, I think instructive mistakes by our opponent. One of them being bishop to c4, which landed on b3, and now the queen develops very early on, okay? It's developing the queen on f3. It is not very advisable in this position because it is going to be a target, okay? The queen is a very valuable piece that usually needs to be developed last, okay? It's like, I don't know what it's like where you guys live, but here in Romania, when you are like 4 years old, your dad would send you to the store to buy some cigarettes, okay? And, you know, it is just a very dumb idea to send a 4-year-old to the store because you may just lose the money. So, forget about the kid. You can't make it another one. So, here he plays c3. And what can I do? I can already start attacking that queen. And in the meantime, we're also using this already mentioned development. It's just pretty much Christmas for openings because we get to develop our pieces with tempo. Just because he was kind enough to develop the queen early on, which is just a very common fundamental mistake that you're gonna see, yeah, I would say below like 1200. Above that, maybe occasionally, but they definitely start doing it less. So, okay, place the move d4. I'm just gonna develop the bishop and gain a tempo. Playing bishop to e7, not a mistake. I just want to highlight these ideas. All right, now he's trying to catch up on development, so bishop to f4 is a good move. But yeah, I think we're probably gonna stick with the trade. However, there's also something pretty aggressive that you generally want to have an eye on, which is the move knight h5. Okay, that could sometimes just win you the game on the spot because of the double attack. Problem is that the knight defends the bishop, so on knight h5, bishop remains undefended. It is only gonna be a fancy trade. So I think it's unnecessary. Just gonna trade the simple way. And then what are we gonna do? We're gonna get our king to safety. So just get castled. Very easy play. Okay, move 10. We have developed every single one of our pieces. We got castled. And in the meantime, opponent still, despite, having the extra tempo playing with the white pieces, seems to be struggling to get all of his forces into the action. And okay, he makes another pretty common mistake because he plays the move f3. You know, there is already this kind of famous saying that you should never play f3 or f6. I think that depends, especially when you play DJ Bava London, as you will see later into the video. But yeah, generally a move like f3 here, this means that, okay, the knight is not going to have access to the natural square, which is a problem because the knight is quite critically placed on f3, controlling the center, okay, eyeballing the e5 square. Now, even because of f3 move, I can start playing very aggressive, all right? Since I already told you this is bad because the knight is not controlling e5 square, maybe wondering, oh, but maybe that is not gonna matter anyways. Well, look, I can play bishop back, and black is having a completely fine game. But I can also give you a pretty nice life lesson. With a move e5. Okay? Targeting the queen and the pawn. If he moves back, fine. I can move maybe the bishop. But I think he's very likely to try and call my bluff in a way. Because after d5, if I take with the knight, it looks like he can take with the queen. And he may be winning a piece. Plus, also, if I take with the knight, he can take the bishop and win a piece. Yes. But you are missing the whole point. We're gonna punish f3. Because, once again, no development. King in the middle. How do you exploit king in the middle? You want to open up the position. Alright? Now, after knight e5, he needs to be very careful not to lose on the spot. Alright? Because already the position is filled with a lot of really nasty traps. And I think already black should have crashing initiative. But it is pretty funny that if he goes for a move like, let's say, taking the bishop, we're going to be using the simple fork. And notice all of this is possible because of f3. So I really wanted to make it clear. And to be honest, it is not always gonna backfire this terribly for white. But I think this game is just, a very good illustration of what could happen if you put a lot of common mistakes for this rating range kind of in the same bucket. It is gonna be a toxic bucket, you know? You already get a feeling from the possession. Opponent burning a lot of time. And he plays the move king f1 after a minute. Okay, so actually let's give some credits to our opponent. Because, queen e5. This is losing due to a very important tactic that you really want to get tattooed in your brain. You have rook e8. And then the queen is lost because of the pin. And fg, as I already mentioned, allowed the fork. So he plays king to f1. Okay, now this is hanging, this is hanging. However, king is weak. And how are we going to exploit that? We're going to play rook e8. I know you may be wondering, oh, cannot he just take our bishop? Yes, we're giving up the bishop because we want more from life, okay? We don't want simply a game where we keep all the pieces and, I don't know, try to win without taking any risk, which by all means, against these players is still a very viable strategy. But with this move, we're setting up another trap that is gonna completely end all these f3 shenanigans that my opponent played. To be honest, in order not to lose kind of quickly, I think he has to find 92. Which, speaking of, I don't think it's a very easy move to, yeah, find. 92 or 92. Okay, he finds it. Man, this guy. Credit to this man. Like, he dodges another deadly trap because after FG there was 93. And I think black is winning. I'll show you after the game. So he plays 93. Now, the nice thing about this is that we can simply slow down if we want. Do you guys think we're actually gonna slow down? Probably hell no. Let's go 93. Target the queen. And he's probably, if I had to guess, gonna go queen to d4. Hitting the knight. And sort of centralizing as well. Which I think, at that point, we may want to stick with a simple move because this is kind of coming and the knight is also hanging. So we want to be multitasking and defending. And okay, can he play bishop to c2? That is actually a very good question because then if I move the knight, the bishop is going to remain hanging. So on bishop to c2, I see a safe move, but I'm not sure that is gonna be my favorite move. Oh, okay, he finds that. Opponent finding another great move. I'm gonna play queen to b6 just because I'm running out of time. Okay, we have a little bit of increment. But, yeah. This guy is defending like a beast. Okay? Like, I'm genuinely doing my best to combine a lot of aggressive moves, but this man is just resisting like a gladiator. I don't know. Point is now that bishop takes on d3. Well, I think many ideas could be interesting. Simplest, take queen, take on d3, and that position is better because still he is undeveloped. I think maybe for him it's more interesting to do this, yes, and then to try to still use this pin by maybe playing rook d1. However, my point was that after knight b2, not only that we attack the rook and we sacrifice the bishop, but also the knight will be undefended since the rook has just opened up the last move. So plays h4. Yeah, I think at this point we just have pretty easy cleanup. Knight b2, take the pawn, temporarily sacrificing the bishop because we have this move in reserve. And now it is kind of getting into the more technical path, I would say. From now on, it generally should be a matter of technique, meaning that black should be able to convert with relatively simple moves. The only thing that you need to do is not blunder every single one of your pieces, which, yeah, sometimes we both struggle with. So, just gonna go 93. Take on f5 just because, you know, generally bishops are slightly better than knights. And also in this position, we're giving him double pawns, which are gonna be easier to target. Like for instance, this could already be very annoying. I'm just gonna stick with simple move. Doubling down on the a pawn. plays h5. I would really like to play h6 here. Just pause for a bit, and I want you to like really pay attention to this concept of fixing the weakness, because you know, if you don't play h6, he's potentially gonna push even further, and then you probably just get a pawn trade. Now, okay, he goes rook g1. I can immediately take if I want to. I'm actually just gonna do it because there's no reason to you know, restrain yourself from making that move. And next up, we wanna do rook a2. This was pretty much another unstoppable move, and now it's time to just do PP on the PP. Okay, you see the pin knight, you just want to put even more pressure on it. We can do it with rook e8, we can also do it with knight f4. Knight f4 even, I think, maybe a bit nicer, because we're setting up a trap with rook e1, thinking that he can sort of defend last moment, but there is just gonna be a fork. So, yeah, he tries rook to h6. Brave decision, but after rook e2, king to g3, notice that, you know, on the previous move, rook cannot be taken, but now king is blocking the pin, so that is just free for us. He's giving the discovery. Just make sure to avoid the check, like no matter where you go, gonna be fine. And planning to go rook g8 next, in case of any f6, avoiding any potential annoying nonsense. Gonna use the rook. Could make a move like this. Now, to simplify our task, we need to get rid of this pawn and ideally also exchange his rook. You know, it's just with the rook on the board, he still gets potentially some hopes. Not sure exactly hopes for what, but he still makes some moves. Make sure to trade the rook, and then yeah, that is gonna be the end of his counterplay, even before it begins. So gonna check. He has to go there to like avoid the trade, but I mean, yeah, I think if you're unable to find the rook trade, you can just start targeting the other pawns. And I'm curious whether we missed any quicker wins along the way, because man, my opponent, give this man a medal. Like, somebody find this guy, give him a call, because despite the very dodgy opening play, he just did such a terrific effort in defending against all my little traps. Like e5, great move. Main point is that you cannot take the bishop, so we play knight to d3, winning the queen. Also, the knight is untouchable because there is rook to e8, winning the queen. And this is also not a move that it is only playing for tricks, because this may appear to some of you that, okay, e5 happened, maybe we trick the guy, make some content, and we laugh. That could be the case sometimes, but no. We really want to prioritize sound moves. So, what kind of position do we have here? Black has a massive lead in development, and the enemy king is stuck in the middle. So a very standard procedure to exploit your opponent in such situations is to just look for a pawn break, open up the position. That is exactly what we did with e5. Took with a knight, and then he played king f1. Okay, I mean, from now on, for sure, I may have missed easier moves. Like, for instance, I don't need to go on this aggressive, like knight e3. At this point, I can just make easy move, like bishop back. He's just toasted. I decided to go a little bit in more aggressive, entering the complications, which I'm sure we should be okay in, but I really need to find this queen to b6 move, because I think, yeah, if we turn on the engine, I need to find queen b6 not to be worse. Which, honestly, it is a little bit crazy to me. But, yeah, apply these concepts. Trust me. I think I did maybe like 3 rating climbs. I don't think I have ever seen a 1000 rated guy defending this precise. Okay, trust me, usually they just drop like flies. So, this man, okay, give him a medal, but after queen to b6, you can take his medal because he started blundering. So, h4, took on b2, and from that point, extra pawn, look at this, move like 20, opponent still doesn't development doesn't exist. So Black is just winning. So the rest is pretty simple. Just make sure to keep an eye on this little endgame concept to pretty much just make sure to fix the weakness, play h6, and now why this move is actually so effective is that a rook will have to babysit against the threat by a knight. So we have two rooks against one pretty much playing onto the other side, just giving us a massive lead when it comes to piece mobility. So h6, nice little touch, because otherwise he plays h6 trading, and it could potentially, let's say in like an ideal world, white will be able to play h6, get the rook in, and create some chances maybe for perpetual. No need for any of that to happen. Go h6 and then easy conversion. So yeah, I think with that being said, we can just move on to the following game. All right, everybody, managed to find another white game. Gonna open up with d4 and opponent playing c6. Okay, this may be the kind of player that is going c6 against anything. Perhaps just trying to play the Caro-Kann. However, I got some really sad news for you guys. The Caro-Kann only works against e4. So, this means white has to begin with a king's pawn in order for you to be able to play the Caro-Kann. Alright, against d4, that is just the Slav. Completely different opening, okay? Just trying to spread a little bit of awareness, but for us, Jabava London players, this changes absolutely nothing. We're still gonna be getting these pieces because, in fact, we don't really care about whether we're gonna be getting knight b5 or not, okay? I know, as you are getting started with the Jabava London, you're just gonna fall in love with how quickly you can win after getting knight c7 and using the fork. But we need to train you in a way that you have a pretty decent idea on how to crash them when the fork does not happen. And already, when your opponent plays bishop to f5, this is going to be triggering the f3 move. Okay? We are playing f3. And the main idea behind this move is that on the following, we're going to be starting a pretty brutal attack. Okay? So it is as simple as that. Just in general, when you're going to be seeing the bishop onto f5, I want you to play f3 and then g4. Okay, start attacking this. Bishop has to go back. And just look at the bishop. I mean, imagine he's just been calmly walking at the beach, and after all these pawns, he gets hit in the head by a coconut. I mean, he managed to kind of dodge it by playing h5, which is a good move. Like, he has a choice between pushing the pawn not to get the bishop trapped. And on h5, it is very important that you pay attention to hg and rook h4. Because a lot of people would just be completely ignoring this going e3. Thinking, oh, I just do my Jabava London setup and I'm okay. Well, maybe yes, but he can really punish you. So, h5, always mate it with g5. And then, you can do your own things with e3, bishop to d3. Expecting bishop to d6 in these positions, or knight d7, knight e7. Maybe c5 sometimes, maybe bishop to b4. These are the moves that I normally see, okay? And he plays knight to e7. Now, if you really want to kind of punish the way he played so far, I think the best move objectively may be to go aggressive with e4. However, this is a bit of like a sensible discussion when to play e4 over e3 and all that. So, for starters, I recommend you play e3 all the time. Just preparing bishop to d3, and then, take with the queen, go knight e2, castle long. Very simple. Do that, and okay, the knight doesn't move like that. Just gonna be developing. Take always with the queen, I recommend, for simplicity's sake. And then, castle, knight e2. You're gonna be getting a good attack. Okay, knight to g6. With this move, he pretty much just has an idea of taking. And you have two ways of playing this. You can consider a knight e2 and then you take with a knight. But I think, just in general, as I'm always telling you, bishops are slightly better than knights. So I'm going to try to invest a move here, slide it back, just to keep this bishop controlling a lot of important squares in the enemy camp. So notice that he cannot play bishop d6. He has to go maybe e7, maybe b4, and then probably he takes, which gives us the bishop pair. Pretty nice if you ask me. And also, let's say whenever he goes for like a massive pawn push, he's not going to be able to play rook b8 because the bishop covers that. So just this piece alone will generally slow down his attack kind of dramatically. Okay, I'm going to go knight e2. I'm going to castle long onto the next move, and then I'm going to be playing e4. I think that is usually how this game develops. I have to say, opponent played pretty well so far, but now he plays e5. Okay? Potentially this move is not a mistake, but I want to highlight the concept that, well, I think he's breaking a pretty important rule since he's opening up the position without finishing development. So specifically as black, you need to play a little bit safer, okay? You're generally behind the tempo. You need to make sure you get your king to safety, and then you can make a move like e5. But already this thing can backfire pretty badly for my opponent. Now, I think here this is gonna be okay for him. First glance, I was considering takes and then queen d4, thinking, oh, I get some pressure. And I realize I'm getting forked like a moron. So I don't want to be getting forked like a moron, which I can definitely recommend you guys also try to avoid and just castle. Now, the main thing with castling is that I'm pretty happy if he goes e4. We have a choice. I think simplest is just take back with a pawn. And then I feel like the knight on g6 is potentially in trouble. Why is this in trouble? Because we have a pretty nice pawn push that is going to give him nightmare. Just imagine, we go f4 and then f5. Where are you going to move the knight? a5. So opponent, on one hand, he is trying to attack. But on the other hand, his king is still in the middle. And he opened up the position already. Okay? I'm trying to look for a way to immediately punish this. So there is the idea that I mentioned a little bit earlier. d5. Take with the bishop and then play queen d4. Threat being f4. And the point is that he's still losing the pawn on g7. But this time, we're not going to be losing the queen. Which is a better sign. But when king is in the middle, what I really want you to remember, okay, very important idea. You want to completely open up the position. Because that is going to be generally the spark that you need to set up his entire kingdom on fire. So we play the move e4, okay? Whenever you see like a crazy situation like this, with his king in the middle, you know you're winning, okay? Assuming you're not down a queen, you are winning. Just do this, and then you will be completely shocked to see how many interesting opportunities we are going to be getting for the attack, just because, it's like we're waking up opponent in the middle of the night and we're taking him onto a run. He's not going to be ready and he's going to have a hard time to catch up. So now he castles. Okay, he does something pretty clever. However, he's not going to be getting mated, but on the other hand, he's just losing a pawn. So our move definitely achieved its purpose, giving us a winning position. However, I want you to really wait until we finish this game, because I'm going to be showing you some crazy lines that I think could have happened if he went a little bit more greedy, let's say trying to exchange in the center. That would have been getting him mated in a matter of a few moves. So yeah, I really want to show you how deadly and problematic this idea is when he's breaking fundamental rule. opening up the position when the king is still in the middle. So now he goes ED. Can take with a knight, can take with a queen, can consider DC. These are the candidate moves. Typically, you just want to take with a queen, defend, and he doesn't have many moves. Taking with a knight could be interesting, but I don't know. Just the queen takes feels like it's giving us a lot of control over the position. This is huge threat. Then the knight is gonna be hanging. Knight is kind of nicely defending each other. And yeah, like bishop to c5, we can easily move the queen anywhere. And the move like c5 just looks active, but does not accomplish anything. So, okay, where should we move the queen? Queen e4 is central. Maybe then rook e8 could be a little bit annoying. Just a little. Queen d3 is a move. Then maybe he wants 95. I don't know. I feel like queen d2 is safest. Maybe queen f2. I'm gonna stick with queen d2. Opponent asked in the chat if am I on YouTube. I don't know. Let's see. Just gonna go queen d2, threatening to play d6. And in order to like avoid this idea, he needs to like move the knight, trying to create some counter chances. Knight there, knight c4. 95 d6 could be a move, and then knight f3. Yeah, I think he was losing a piece in that variation, so he plays queen to b6 instead. Now, I think we can continue with d6. We can also consider the idea that I mentioned a little bit earlier. We mentioned that this time is not gonna be that effective anymore because he has 95 idea, which was not a thing initially because my pawn was on d4, so he would have had to go back. Just d6, forcing bishop back, and then I really wanted to play a move like knight d5, centralizing and gaining a tempo. He probably is forced to play queen to c6. Notice that pawn is defended by bishop. Goes queen there. I can try to centralize this knight, which definitely needs a little bit of improvement. Get it to e4, maybe then push. I can already like even consider a move like knight to c7, trying to get the pawn to work. Yeah, I think knight to c7 is pretty nice. Just kind of forcing our path to victory. The pawn is like very close to promotion, just inches away. Threatening to win the knight and then infiltrate. But one pretty funny idea could be to play queen d8. I'm not super sure that it's gonna work yet, but it's so tempting. Okay, I think this cannot hurt. Probably gonna start with that, giving him the trade. And notice that the bishop all the time it's in the game, the knight doing absolutely nothing. This is just the difference and the advantage of having the bishop. The bishop is a long-range piece. It can sort of operate on both flanks. It is pretty much just like an overqualified surgeon. It can do anything. So, knight to d5. Pretty much threatening to take. And then I want to infiltrate with the queen. So we get that. Knight e7, I can move to d7. I can even offer a queen trade. This pawn is also hanging. I can also take the time to bring the rook. I can also consider the idea to play f4, f5. Just because we have the extra pawn. Just look, it is one pawn. But this is giving us literally all the freedom to do anything. Okay, just gonna go f4. Just preparing the full squeeze. Threatening f5. Played logical move. But yeah, notice how one pawn is just making the difference in this game. One pawn on c7, just supported by the bishop. It is all you need to have a crashing advantage. Queen to d7, could have played queen d6 and taken with the bishop as well. That was fine. Targeting the knight, expecting this. Then we bring the last piece into the game. He plays there. Just gonna do simple move. I can also do rook d6 and start collecting. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna try to get you into the habit of using every single one of your pieces. Yeah, queen there. I can play g6. I can play bishop d6 even. Yeah, let's go g6. Just trying to sort of put him in a mating net. Okay, he plays there. Let's give a check. Then infiltrate. Hopefully seeking for rook e8 because he's got some back rank issues that we can take advantage of. Also, there's another tactic that has just entered the position, in case you're paying attention, thanks to this g6 idea that's giving us a pretty nice little breakthrough. We can do rook takes on g7. And the main reason why this is happening is that, well, we have the pawn on g6 that's setting up mating ideas. And take the rook, queen comes over, mate on h7 to follow. And b4 simply allows mate in one. So we could have definitely played this in many ways. I think the way we did it was pretty simple. If you wanna oversimplify this, I think you could have gone for, let's say at this point, a move like maybe queen d6 is definitely okay. Even queen d6 in this position trading. And here, simplest is rook d6 to win the knight. I just wanted to go full squeeze, okay? We just went full squeeze there. Oh, wait, there's a better move to mate. I forgot about this. And really important, guys, okay? We played e4. And now it is very important. Okay, what would happen if opponent tries to enter the complication and does not allow us the simple extra pawn? So he could be playing a move like de4. All right? And I think that already we can potentially go queen e4. And this creates a threat of d5 winning a pawn, therefore forcing ed. And then we have a choice, okay? I had a quick glance over knight e4. And in case he castles, there's knight e5 idea. He's pinned, he's kind of stuck. And instead of taking it with a knight, even better, I think, to take it with a rook. Because the knight is pinned, and then you have this idea coming. I see that he's having a hard time unpinning. So that's on de4. I think queen e4 would have been pretty much brutally winning. And if he would have taken it the other way, I think taking with the queen would have been interesting, with the idea that there is ed5 double attack. So this is happening just because he opened up the position with the king in the middle. Okay, he just decided to shoot himself in the foot. This is, you know, he could have easily castled. There is really nothing special going. Like, it is just an even position because this is like a solid line for my opponent. And we play a game. I'm probably going to go e4 and king b1. Try to maybe trade a pair of knights like this. Position is still very solid. He decided to play e5. Breaking fundamental rule. Go e4. Easy way to punish. Okay, after we just had extra pawn, you can try to, make use of the passed pawn or exchange all the pieces. No matter which way you choose, you should generally be having an easy win. So with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. And okay, if they're playing the hillbilly attack every single game, there is not much that I can do about it. But crush it over and over again. Alright, just gonna stick with the simple strategy as before. Developing knights closer to the middle. keeping an eye on these little important squares. And okay, bishop to g5. Now, I do believe that this is one of the moments where a lot of the lower rated players would kind of tend to panic, freak out, and play a move like e6. Okay? Why is e6 a bad move? Because it's closing the bishop. Why are people making this mistake? Because they are afraid of bishop takes on f6, giving them double pawns. Okay, I understand where that fear is coming from. However, I want you to like really pick up on this concept that after g takes on f6, important, okay, do not take with the e pawn because then this guy becomes isolated. So bishop takes take with the g pawn, then the pawn will likely go to e6. You go bishop d6. You're gonna be getting very nice control over the center. Okay, the pawn from g7 goes to f6 and then controls this. And you also get the bishop pair. So this is actually a favorable trade for black. Even though I know it may not look like that in the first place. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Okay. Other thing is, because he didn't develop any knights, we have opportunity to play knight e4, targeting that piece immediately. Also, what I think I'm gonna end up playing, we can develop the bishop. So it's not only we develop the bishop to pin, but we develop the bishop to attack queen. The knight supports bishop move. He plays f3, which is typical weakening move. We're like more than happy to see this, and we can slide it back to f5, perhaps even better, just because from h5 bishop doesn't have a whole lot of purpose. From here, you know, it's at least hanging out in the diagonal. And when g4 happens, we're more than happy to see this because, you know, when one side is attacking, it's like really committing, which is actually what we really want to see with the Caro-Kann, okay? Because there is more of like a counter-attacking opening. So they are playing aggressive, okay? Do not panic. This means they're going to be vulnerable onto the counter-attack. You know, you can make a living and even become world champion in soccer if you're like Team Italy. Score one goal and then, you know, trade all the pieces or just send the ball into the audience. Okay, we're kind of doing what I already mentioned with the additional thing that he has this little, you know, premature attack going on. Sitting d5, just gonna defend. So notice how with these block of pawns, we're already restricting two of my opponent's pieces, which is already kind of neat if you ask me. And yeah, then I can play bishop to d6, looking for a check. But he plays the move queen to e2, which definitely kind of changes some things in the position. Should we still follow up with bishop d6, or perhaps because he's preparing long castle, we can consider like a prophylactic idea such as bishop to h6, stopping that? No, I'm just saying that, kind of confusing you. You gotta, you know, open up your eyes and watch out for the hanging pawn, because they're gonna be making these sort of unforced errors all the time. Okay, knight d4. Queen e2 is a mistake because queen defends pawn. Queen e2. Pawn is no longer defended. Take it. He's gonna go queen b5 check. Trying to win b7. Well, allow me to introduce you to the hidden secret. The knight does move backwards, so we can take the queen. Checks with the bishop instead. That's a better move. Gonna block. And yeah, we just have the extra pawn. Expecting him to castle, which actually is a good move, and we need to be a little bit careful. Just a little bit, but should be doable. Because on castle, there is knight d5 threat, exploiting the pin. But after castle, bishop e7 unpinning. Extra pawn. Clearly better position for black. Goes f4. The point of f4 is that it's threatening f5, which is definitely quite scary because we cannot take, as our king will be eaten. Therefore, yeah, think it makes sense to play this move, just kind of as a defensive attempt, since f5 now we can just take it with a bishop. In case he takes it with a queen, well, that is gonna give us time to complete development. So he castles finally. And notice that still there is this threat, so you wanna watch out for your opponent's ideas as well, and I really mean it. So, gonna use the same, bishop e7, simply unpinning. What is he gonna do? Like, the knight has no squares and he plays queen takes on g4, which is a move that is very natural, and I would have really expected this to happen. And I think it is important now to sort of restrain yourself from playing the very tempting move. Okay, because a lot of people would just go monkey brain here thinking, oh, I'm gonna go bishop to h5, these pieces are on the same diagonal and I'm gonna win. Well, maybe, but you kind of need to work out the details first. Like, for instance, what if he plays queen g7 there? You take his rook, he takes your rook. And then you also lose the bishop, and you probably lose the game with that. So, you know, make sure to, whenever you see such tempting opportunity, when something is a little bit too good to be true, it generally is. So, okay, need to play something else instead. I also would love to get myself castled, but not immediately. I can play a move like maybe queen b6, but still the same h5 idea. Can we castle there? I don't know. I'm just gonna do queen b6. Ideas to look for the check. Queen c7 could be reasonable as well. You know, it's kind of hard to decide. I'm just gonna do this. I'm not afraid of any like piece sack. I think I can just take. And in case of h5, I wanted bishop up. If he goes in, plan was to long castle. Sacrifice f7 because I feel like the queen is potentially very vulnerable in that position. Also, h5, you can consider a move like castle because it's just apparent a threat because the rook is still undefended. So, I mean, it could complicate, but yeah, I'm just gonna do this. Once again, maybe this is playable. I'm just gonna keep it simple. Bishop f5, target the queen, expecting this to happen. And yeah, rook h7 still allows this. King d7, maybe interesting move, but kind of too much in the middle. So I'm gonna castle. As I was saying, he has this move. But yeah, I think this is gonna lead to a pretty risky position for my opponent. So you can go ahead, try to pause the video, and find the winning move for black there. Because apparently he didn't allow us to play it. Which is a bit of a pity, but it's fine. Just gonna go in for the check. Trying to collect another pawn, and how many pawns do we have already? I'm kind of... I have not been the best guy in the math class. I'm gonna give you that. So I can think I can also introduce annoying rook move. I'm gonna start with that. Just, you know, pawn is fine. If we can just force queen trade, could be even better. I can take pawn, but for simplicity's sake, we're gonna exchange. I can do this. I can also play a move like rook h6, which is something that I really wanted to pay attention to. Because this is the very important concept of fixing the weakness. Like, if I would have played the bishop first, he could have pushed. Okay, just double up. Continue with the idea, the pawn cannot run anywhere because we fixed it. That's, you know, point of previous move. And we attack. I'm expecting him to move the rook. Then, I mean, at the very least, we can pick up the pawn. Maybe he has some counterplay. I don't think it's like really problematic, but it's instructive to show that a move such as f5, it's fixing another weakness. So, kind of taking this concept to the next level. Okay, can take that. Trades are always gonna favor the side that's having the extra material. In case you're having a hard time to figure who that is, it is us. threatening some check. I can play a6. Usually, you could have played a6 a little bit earlier. I'm just gonna start by now targeting the fixed weakness. Notice how effortlessly you can win this type of pawns if you if you just fix them first. You know, he's on a dark square. He's probably gonna be taken because he has only light square bishop. We have dark square bishop to attack it, meaning that you know, at the end of the day, he may be getting outnumbered. Okay, now important to, I think, play a move like even b5. b5 is not like required, but it's kind of nice inclusion. Putting all my pawns on the light squares to restrict his bishop. Notice that little concept. His bishop has nowhere to go. And now important focus here. So we bring the knight, going to g6, applying even more pressure onto the pawn. Notice that he cannot play any c4 to activate. That's why I played b5. Any activating move, I think it's slowly running out of any ideas after rook f4. Pretty much forcing trading the rest of the pieces. a4, good try. I think you can just ignore it though. Yeah, I'm gonna go knight g6. I was kind of glancing over takes and knight to d4, trying to get counterplay because now this pawn is undefended. But then I think we have a move that's like really sort of calm down our opponent because we're gonna be able to initiate even more trades with a move like bishop to c5. Pinning, has to move the rook, then we take, and okay, he goes there. Now I can take, and I think we're gonna do it. It does allow some potential activation for him, but I don't think it's something really all that terrible. And yeah, he's probably gonna win that pawn. I'm gonna just try to keep it anyways. And then do rook e4. It would be like really lovely to kind of activate our king. But yeah, I guess you cannot have anything in life. Oh, I just made like a little bit of a mistake. I forgot about this pawn, but yeah, just because we are able to push, that is gonna be an easy win. I just play rook d4 to have this defended. King d7 big threat to activate the king. Yeah, now he's taking that pawn. So he's trying to get a bit of counterplay. I'm gonna do b4. Trying to keep it, but now he's getting that pawn. Wow. I have definitely allowed a little bit too much counterplay. I'm gonna give you that. Okay. Luckily, rook d5, I think he's just walking into a losing endgame because my king is too quick now. So notice that my king, from being pretty passive, now it's able to win us the game because I'm able to play this move with a tempo. And yeah, now should have an easy way towards that path. Yeah, I think we start f4. Yeah, I'm actually gonna do king d4 just because I feel like he would have played c3 otherwise. And we're gonna be getting this funny position where it just looks to be a mess. But I think we're definitely ahead in this race. And the bishop is very nice because it can sacrifice for his pawns while it's gonna be supporting our pawn as well. So I think this is classical win in the pawn race. I has to sacrifice the bishop because I was promoting. And yeah, now his pawns are just way too slow. Not much he can do to stop this from happening. And well, a bit a bit too complicated for my taste at the end. But eventually got the job done. So yeah, I think this was very good for like a while. I don't know how my opponent managed to get all that counterplay all of a sudden. Yeah, I think this was the like inaccuracy, or at least I think what I'm supposed to do in hindsight is just completely give up on f7. You don't need to be this materialistic. Okay, by the way, this is just my feedback. I'm not looking at it with a computer, so I think I should have sacrificed it and then played bishop e7. I'm ready to play king d6, and I've got like 3 connected pawns. He never wins anything. I can check. I can like push the pawns together. This would have been easy. However, because I had just a few seconds on my clock, as you saw, I kind of started making mistakes, which, yeah, were really unnecessary. Once again, I could play something like rook e4, give him that, bring the king. Easy win as well. I don't know how I started to, like, blunder every single one of my pawns, basically. But yeah, rook d5. I think still this was somewhat instructive because you have this position, and if you don't play king d4, I think you never win. I was considering f4, but then I saw c3. And I noticed that the king is never infiltrating as he has the squares. And king d4, maybe this is gonna be a draw with like precise play by white. But he needs to be very careful. Now after king e3, I'm like ready to do this. I don't even understand how computer makes a draw here, to be honest. He played like the human way. And then, yeah. Just a simple win, highlighting the power of activating your king in the endgame. Okay, it all started here. Yeah, like we play king c7 and the king goes to a journey. Boom, boom. King e3. See, it's like pretty much the way you want to see activating the king in the endgame is as effective as, like let's say when you're having like a soccer game and that is the last corner kick. And there is nothing to lose, so the goalkeeper is running away into the enemy penalty area to maybe score a header or, I don't know, punch the opponent while the arbiter is not looking. Anyways, you get the point. You see how effective the king is, and do this. There is nothing to lose because in the end game there is no risk of getting mated. Therefore, you can just start shuffling your king and you may very well just start winning a ton of games. So, with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. All right, everybody, managed to find the white game. Gonna open up with d4. And we're gonna be sticking with what I believe to be by far the most effective opening that you can use as a beginner long term. Okay, like this is gonna be very effective as you are getting started. It is also gonna be very effective above 2000. You can definitely use it later on in your chess journey as you progress. Like you can make the argument that for low rated games you can get away with playing any dubious gambits, and that is definitely the case. But what I'm trying to say here, this is gonna be good in the long run. So yeah, I may be repeating myself, but I'm just trying to make sure that you get the point. So opponent playing knight f6, and with that we're reaching the most common position for the Jobava London. And one of the very nice things about the Jobava London compared to the normal one is that by having this knight on c3, this is actually gonna give us a lot of dynamic opportunities to play moves like knight b5, alright, which is immediately kind of targeting a nevralgic point in our opponent's camp. And against e6, we're even gonna be sticking with the move. e6 is by far one of the most common ideas, preparing to like move the bishop somewhere and then get castled. Now against e6, there are two ways of playing it. There is the main move, which is also Jobava's favorite, the inventor of the opening. And you can also play this lower way with e3, which, allows bishop to b4. It is fine, but definitely not that straightforward. I like knight b5 myself, and usually they will play either bishop d6. I find that to be the most common for this rating range, or knight onto the edge. Besides that, there's also an opportunity for them to check, because after c3, the bishop can defend c7 from a5. And that is also leading to interesting play, but it's a very rare move. I wouldn't really expect you to face this until you reach maybe like 1800 in blitz. So we see bishop to d6. Now very important, you want to be taking it with a knight. I noticed that some lower rated players forget and take with a bishop. No, you want to see this as a positive trait for us, since bishops are slightly more valuable than the knights. And with that, we're going to be getting to a very common pawn structure that you really need to pay attention to. Because what happens too often is that low rated players, are just kind of focusing on what they are supposed to do, how they are supposed to develop their pieces, without really paying attention to what our opponent is doing. Because with this, you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because your moves are going to be generally dictated by either the enemy pawn structure or by, obviously what moves he's making. So we're going to start with e3. I recommend move order-wise you play e3 before knight f3. This is generally the most flexible way. Yeah. And now they're going to castle or play knight c6. Some people will make the mistake to go e5, which is just literally hanging a pawn. I've seen everything in these positions, okay? And yeah, well, for now, black's position looks pretty passive because they have the bad bishop that is literally staring into the pawn. But on the other hand, I am predicting that he's gonna, let's say, do something like this. We play knight f3, and then he's gonna be initiating some e5 ideas. And okay, he plays b6. b6 is a very rare move for this position, which is preparing like a good idea. He wants bishop to a6 and trade. But I would really, I wouldn't expect this to happen like at all in your games. So I'm just gonna play maybe bishop to d3. The thing is, for these positions, you wanna go bishop to e2. But because he's planning bishop a6, okay, I'm just gonna make like a neutral move. I'm gonna play h3. Just a luft, and in case of bishop a6, I may be seeking for bishop d3. With idea to invite him take, and I'm gonna take with a pawn. Okay, so he just plays knight b d7 instead. So then he played like, first of all, he played like a 100 IQ move, and then knight b to d7, he literally dropped his brain on the floor. You pause the video and tell me why this is a mistake. Because knight b to d7 looks, to be somewhat developing, but it is just interrupting queen's defense over the d6 pawn. And to be honest, I see a lot of people not paying enough attention to this pawn. Because in, beginner's brain, the pawn on d6 is defended for one move, then it's kind of like defended for the rest of the game. No, you still need to kind of double check every move. So we take that. And then what do you do after you take a risky pawn like that? You get the heck out of there, okay? Just like we literally robbed a bank. Now we need to make sure we go as far as possible so that we don't get caught. Like a lot of people would just be literally hanging out at the crime scene. They would be like playing bishop e2, castle, doing a4, call their friends, brag about it. Dude, you're gonna get caught. You need to get out of there. So take the pawn, bishop back to safety, and from now on just play with an extra pawn. And okay, to some people, this position may not be very interesting because, he just blundered the pawn, you're gonna win. What is to learn from this? Well, in fact, I would even double down and make the argument that these are the most important positions that you need to get better at. And just this skill alone is gonna skyrocket your rating from, let's say, I don't know, whatever you start, to somewhere around like at least 1400. You can get by winning a pawn and then trying to exchange all the pieces, and do it in sort of like a profitable manner. Because I say this a lot on the channel, and people are like, "Oh, I tried to exchange all the pieces, but I still lost." Well, this is really an art that You want to focus and master. Okay? And generally, there are a few rules that you can keep in mind whenever you're trying to play this strategy. One of them being that, well, we generally try to exchange pieces of similar activity. Okay? Like, for instance, yeah, I don't have a good example here, but let's say trading this knight for his bishop would maybe not be the best trade because the bishop is already kind of passive. So this is just kind of like an example. All right, now in order to make this more straightforward, we need to open up the possession. For that, we need a pawn break. You may be wondering, okay, but why didn't you just play c4 on the previous move, opening up the possession? That was doable. However, that allows him dc4 and then the bishop opens. So I think that is just a little bit unnecessary, and therefore we need another pawn break. We're not going to be pushing pawns like this in front of the king, because that's going to be weakening it. Therefore, we need to look onto the other side, and we see a hook. We see a hook, we try to use the hook. Fairly simple. He plays e5, fine. I can take, applying the trade, but then we're going to notice that he has 2 pawns in the center and we have none. So, just gonna follow our plan. Let him push if he wants it. We can safely retreat the knight. Like when e4 happens, go anywhere but h4. Okay, just don't play knight h4, please. For the love of Jesus, just stop playing knight h4. Because the knight is gonna get trapped on the edge of the board. Just knight e2. And okay, next we're ready to take, ready to make some trades. He plays a6, threatening this. I'm just gonna be taking, and yeah, he takes it with a knight. I can make like a rook a5 move. However, the rook is gonna be kind of undefended, and I see this thing. I'm just gonna play queen b3, connecting my rooks, and also, you know, doubling down on this idea that he has knight and bishop on the same file. Maybe these pieces are gonna become vulnerable. Also, setting up a nice little pin, like in case he forgets and moves the rook, then this could be a nice little tactic, exploiting the pawn. Also, on the next move, I could be playing c4. Notice that I said a few moves ago that c4 was not very interesting. Now it becomes interesting because the bishop is kind of staring into his own pawn again. So that would be a way to play it. I could also just double up rooks. Okay, I'm just going to keep it very simple. I'm going to double up rooks on the open file because we already have a target. So make sure when you have a target to like really start focusing on it. Like the problem with a lot of newer players is that, well, even when you have a weakness, you're not maneuvering your pieces around it. Because this may be a little bit counterintuitive because the way beginner's brain works, you know, it is pretty much like a dog. It needs to constantly be doing something. And usually maneuvering takes like 2 or 3 moves, and technically during those 2 to 3 moves you're making no threats. But in fact, no, you're just preparing to make the final threat. So a lot of the newer players would be inclined to do something more active like c4 just because it's about what to do in the very next second. But no, once you got a weakness, you gotta put on your big boy pants and maneuver your pieces around it. You already won the game, okay? Usually just getting the target is similar to getting a winning advantage. It is that simple. You don't need to do any like rocket science, okay? Notice how we double the rooks, and he just has no way to defend the pawn, okay? Why is queen c8 not enough to defend? Why is this a mistake? Well, notice that the queen is just overloaded and leaves the knight undefended. The queen needs to defend the knight, therefore queen c8 would be a mistake. Also notice that my bishop is always so active, controlling a lot of important squares, and okay, he plays rook e6. Now, with this I'm wondering, can I take, should I wait? I don't really see a reason to wait, so I'm gonna go for the move, even if it's a mistake. I don't care. You shouldn't be playing like scared chess, okay? Like if he plays a dubious move and you feel like you can capitalize on it, even if you maybe don't see like every single detail, generally I recommend you still follow your intuition, okay? Still, you're gonna lose plenty because of your intuition, but you will also win occasionally. Or when you lose, you should try to learn from the mistake. So it's kind of like a win-win anyways. So collecting the pawn. Now we've got 2 extra pawns. And then it's also gonna be nice that more pieces are getting traded off. Okay, rook b8. Why is this a mistake? You need to wake up for the half asleep audience. Time to use your London bishop. Sniping that rook. And then on queen b8, we have a move that is even nicer. Alright, this is really pretty. We got rook a8. So nice. This is not even that clever, but it looked very nice getting the queen. We like sacrificed a lot of pieces in the process, but it's definitely queen for rook and knight more than enough. Gonna play queen b7. The knight is completely dominated. Queen is covering d5, and next we just want to activate the knight. Notice that all of his pieces are kind of tied down to defense, and yeah, the knight has no squares. Would be lovely to get a knight to e6, so we see this route. Boom, get a knight to e6, targeting rook, and then targeting checkmate. He can never play rook d7 because the knight remains undefended, and all of his pieces are like literally stuck. So, yeah. Knight to e8. I really want to play this move, just because we're targeting these things. Now, with a move like knight e8, whenever he's like moving backwards, you should really look for ways to kind of punish that. So yeah, just knight c5. Notice that the pawn is untouchable because the knight remains undefended. We can just take, and now still. I've got a bunch of huge frats, potentially 96. I can still play 96 now. Yeah, let's just go 96 because we're initiating trades and we're also starting to pick up even more pawns. He has to take because this is like a pretty big frat. If he doesn't, then this is coming. King h7, take on f5, pick up another pawn. Even if, let's say, somehow by accident we lose the b2 pawn, that's still not gonna matter. He plays that move. Gonna start with a check. And then, at the very least, pick up the pawn with check. This cannot hurt, I think. Okay, he just resigned, but yeah, we were about to trade more pieces. Okay, let's just see a game review. I'm curious what the chess.com engine will say. Okay, apparently we get like a 91. Yeah, I think maybe the hardest move of the game. Okay, curious what rating we get. We play like a 1550. Hell yeah, we'll take that. I think the hardest move of the game was definitely a4. From my experience, this is the move that you really want to pay attention to. I think beginners may have an easy time reaching a position like this if yeah, you just watch like a few of my videos and get familiar with the theory. This is easy to get, but it's yeah, trickier to open things up. So you want to go a4, you want to like really sort of spot the target, then you use the pawn, and yeah, just look how effortlessly this was. After we open up the file, we notice isolated pawn, double up rooks, he's literally defenseless. Pick that one up. Notice how you know, the sniper is awakening from h2. Picking up that, and okay, now just a nice little trick to win the queen. Bit unnecessary, but kind of nicely showing how pin pieces will backfire. So okay, remember you get these moves. They play e6, threatening bishop to b4. You go knight b5. So with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game.